Living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
You know, diet and exercise are key to a healthy body, but did you know they're also important to a healthy brain? Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. Today we continue last week's discussion about brain health with tips for how you can boost your brain power. And it's never too late to start. I'm your host, Beth Brown. We'll be right back to talk about improving brain health right after this. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Last week we talked about how our brains change with age, but this week we're talking about how you might be able to keep your brain young. Joining us first this morning is Laurie from the University of Montana. Diana, thanks for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Can you start out by talking about just a super basic question? Can we really do things to make our brains smarter or healthier?
Absolutely. And it really comes down to keeping your body healthier as well as your brain. So moderate exercise is one of the best things that you can do to keep your brain healthy. Engaging in a lot of different activities, crossword puzzles, listening to music, being with friends, all of those things can help to keep your brain healthy.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about what happens to our brain as we grow up? Because it starts out growing and then not.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. So interestingly, our brains continue to develop until we're in our mid-20s. And the forebrain, the front of our brain, which is our decision making, really only becomes mature in our mid-20s, which is why teenagers sometimes don't make good decisions.
Sure.
And then by around the age of 40, our brain begins to shrink and we begin to lose cells in our brain.
Okay, and so let's talk about then what we can do to help our brain stay young, so to speak. So you mentioned some mind exercises like crossword puzzles. Are there other things that you can do to stimulate your brain like that, activities that are just more mind exercises versus physical exercises?
Yeah, that's really interesting because there's a lot on the internet now about certain exercises that you can do to improve your brain function. And the research is kind of mixed on that. Some research shows that it helps, some research shows that it doesn't. But basically, I think what those mind exercises do is they improve your ability to do those mind exercises. So if you have an exercise where you have to remember words that you've heard, you'll get good at remembering words that you heard. You won't necessarily help your entire brain. Okay. So that's why doing a lot of different activities is really helpful.
Sure, okay, that makes sense. And so what about folks, I've heard sometimes that if you cross over from your right to your left, so if somebody's predominantly right-handed and they try to use their left, is that beneficial to your brain health?
It's more beneficial to your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed and you're used to using that, you probably aren't so good with your left hand. When I was in graduate school, I had to learn how to use my left hand under a microscope. So I had to train my left hand. So that kind of training, it does use more of your brain to work your left hand, but it really just helps you with those motor functions.
Okay. And you talked already a little bit about memory, remembering words. Are there other memory games, I guess, for lack of a better term, that people can play to help with their memory?
Well, there are a lot of different games on the internet that have lots of different tasks, and some of them have to do with looking at things and remembering things, hearing words and remembering words. Crossword puzzles are good. Using your brain through all of your different sensory modalities, whether it's through your visual system, through your hearing, through touching, and exercise, all of those help your brain function.
Okay, so you just brought up exercise. Are there different exercises that are more or less beneficial to brain health?
Well, the good news is you don't have to run a marathon to make your brain more healthy. Moderate exercise has been shown to help produce more brain cells, especially in the area of the hippocampus, which is involved with learning and memory. So you don't have to kill yourself, but getting regular moderate exercise is one of the most beneficial things you can do for your brain.
Great. But what about those folks maybe that don't have great mobility or they don't get around very well? Are there physical things that they are still able to do to help with their brain health?
Absolutely. And something like chair yoga is an excellent thing to do. And I would really recommend, if people have limited mobility, to go see a really good physical therapist. And they can set them up with a good exercise program that they can do that will keep them, fairly fit and keep their brain healthy.
Great. And okay, so let's switch gears a little bit here again and talk a little bit about dementia. That's something that can happen as the brain ages. Does exercise stave off dementia?
It helps to delay it, yes. So there are studies that show that regular exercise does help with dementia, does help with Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease, which is a motor degenerative disease.
Okay, what if somebody is already experiencing symptoms? Is it too late?
It's not too late. You can't actually do much to reverse the process, but you can maybe delay it and stay a little bit healthier.
And if someone is doing either physical exercise or some of these mental exercises and they've already seen maybe a little bit of memory loss, for, like me, I'm terrible with names. I have a hard time remembering folks' names. If I do memory games, will I see me get better at that kind of thing?
You might not see yourself get better, but you're not going to get worse.
Okay.
And you're going to feel a lot better and perhaps be more alert and be able to train yourself maybe to remember names a little bit better.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that maybe would help folks keep their brain sharp or maybe slow it down from being not quite so sharp?
Yeah, I guess the take-home message really is do a lot of different activities. Interact with friends, go to movies, do crossword puzzles, do exercise. Just try and have a really rich, full life. And the more that you can do for both your body and the mind, the better off you're going to be.
Okay, that's a great message. Thanks very much, Diana, for all that great information. And we've talked about exercising your body and your mind. That's one way to improve your brain health. As Diana already alluded to, we're going to talk about another way you can keep your brain feeling young. That has to do with your friends and your family. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Believe it or not, keeping your friends around you or making new friends is good for your brain health. Joining us now to talk about that is Elizabeth Kolstad. Thank you for being on our show, Liz.
You're welcome.
So let's just dive right in and start out by talking about how does socialization help your brain?
Well, our brains are actually built for socialization. So the brain size to body size ratio is linked with the importance of social network. And humans have the biggest brain to body size ratio of all of the species. So our brains are built to socialize. Socialization in all its forms, both indirect and direct, really helps us function. So the indirect effects of socialization are we sleep better, we have a better immune system, we're more creative, we're more cognitively productive. All of those effects help us feel better, and if we feel better, we tend to do more, and as we do more, we tend to socialize more. And then there are the direct effects. Socialization has been linked to a decreased chance of getting dementia, and in animal studies, socialization has been shown to increase the number of synapses in the brain. So we have indirect and direct effects that say socialization is one of the best things you can do for your health and your brain health.
That's great. So are there certain kinds of socialization that are better than others? For example, if I went and had lunch with a friend and caught up versus catching up with her over the phone, which one is better?
Face-to-face is always the best because it engages more of your brain. And the more of your brain that you engage, the better off you're going to be. So face-to-face is best. Talking with a friend over the phone is fine as well. Doing Skype is fine. The more real-time the socialization, the better. So face-to-face is best. Talking on the phone is next. Texting is actually a little bit better than going on Facebook. So face-to-face is the best and most active.
So that was actually going to be my next question, social media. Do you get any benefits from being on Facebook as far as brain health goes?
You know, you get some, and some of it could be the introduction or a way into then becoming a friend with somebody and then meeting up with them later. So the best you can do is face-to-face, and it doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be taking a walk and saying hi to a neighbor, going to the grocery store and talking to the clerk, being in a choir, going to church, going to the library and speaking to the librarian. It doesn't have to be extensive. It just has to be a little bit every day, and that has been linked to brain health.
Okay, great. And we talked last segment a little bit with Diana about how exercise can help reduce your chances for dementia. Does socialization have similar effects?
It does. There was a study at Johns Hopkins. The researchers there looked at 147 pairs of male twins and did a longitudinal study and found that those males who had better socialization in mid to late life had a decreased incidence of dementia. So we have some pretty good research, and there was another longitudinal study that looked at all the longitudinal studies and said that there's a decreased chance of getting dementia with increased socialization. They don't know exactly what the mechanism is. There are 3 potential mechanisms, but they do know that the link is pretty clear.
That's great. Well, so let's come at this from the other side. What about loneliness? So if socialization is beneficial to your brain, is being alone then having negative effects on your brain?
Yes. You know, loneliness is not a natural state for human beings. We're meant to connect. And loneliness and being alone can lead to depression, it can lead to poor sleep, and it can lead to increased suspiciousness and increased isolation. So all of those things it can decrease sleep as well. So all of those things make it bad for your health physically, and bad for your emotional health, and bad for your brain health.
Okay. What about pets? Do pets count when it comes to socialization?
Absolutely. The skin is the largest organ that we have in our body, and just petting an animal, even a cricket, they have found. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a lovable animal. Petting an animal actually increases the love hormone oxytocin in humans and in the pet that you're petting. It also provides a great mechanism to talk about. So if you're walking your dog or having a cat that's really attractive, it's a great thing to talk to other people about. So it actually can be the medium for socialization.
That's great. You talked a little bit about mood and feeling isolated, and that mood actually does impact the brain. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What does mood do?
If we're depressed or stressed or alone, and those 3 things often go together, it can create a chronic stress response in the brain and in the body. And that chronic stress response has an impact on your immune system. It can create heart difficulties, diabetes. The stress response can create a whole host of physical ailments that then can compromise your brain health.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but just really quickly, for those folks who maybe don't have a lot of ways to interact with other people, or they're not sure how to get out there and be social, do you just have 1 or 2 tips that can get them started?
Start small. It doesn't have to be big. Take a short walk, say hello to people, practice smiling in the mirror just to see what you look like and how engaging you can be when you smile. Talk to the clerk at the store, go to the library. So start small, anything will do.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Liz.
You're so welcome.
Great information. We need to take a break, but coming up next, you've heard the phrase, you are what you eat. Well, that goes for your brain too. How certain foods can boost your brain power right after this. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us. Healthy eating isn't just good for your waistline and your heart. We're continuing our discussion on how to improve brain health, and joining us now is Wendy Brooks, a registered dietitian nutritionist and licensed nutritionist. Thanks for coming out today, Wendy.
Yeah.
So let's just start out by talking about that phrase that we've probably all heard, you are what you eat. Is that true when it comes to your brain too?
It probably is. Just a basic healthy diet that's good for our bodies probably is also good for our brains. Basic healthy diet includes, of course, your fruits and vegetables. I wouldn't be a good dietitian if I didn't mention fruits and vegetables. Also whole grains and all of your plant foods. Also lean meats, poultry, fish. In addition to low-fat or non-fat dairy, and just basic moderation too.
Okay, so you started talking about fruits and vegetables. Let's hit some of the food groups. Are there particular fruits and vegetables that are better than others when it comes to brain health?
Well, you might hear about some specific fruits and vegetables like blueberries or kale, and we'll see those pop up every now and then as they're focusing on one. But really, I want to emphasize the importance of continuing to have a variety of fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
There are a lot of phytochemicals or phytonutrients, as we might refer to them, just strange little compounds in our plant foods that we really think can benefit us in a lot of ways. And what's in one fruit might not be in another. And a lot of it is based on color. So eating a rainbow is a way to think about it. The more colors you can get, what you find in red fruits and vegetables will be great, but you'll find something completely different in your yellow and orange, your blue, your purple, white even. White is a color that counts, like your garlic and onions. So as we look at those, you want to hit as many as you can, get as broad of a, because we don't really understand them completely now, but you know, if you can hit as many as you can, that's better.
Perfect. Okay, and you mentioned fish too. Are there certain kinds of fish that are better than others?
Yes, we particularly look at fatty fish. They contain more of omega-3 fatty acids, which is one that we've really seen benefit us in terms of heart disease. And a lot of the same foods that affect our risk for heart disease are also good for our brain. And omega-3 fatty acids may also be one of those. They've been looking at that quite a bit, and there's quite a bit of evidence for that.
Okay.
Types of fish for fatty are your salmon and lake trout, good news for Montanans that like to fish, and tuna, salmon, lake trout, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then what about nuts and seeds? Are there certain ones that can really help with brain health?
Well, overall, you know, they are a plant food also. And when you think about it, an entire plant could grow out of a nut or seed. They're packed with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, also fiber, and unsaturated oils, like your polyunsaturated and your monounsaturated, which are seen to be heart healthy and may also be good for our brains also.
Okay, and that leads perfectly into my next question, because you mentioned oils, and I wonder too if there are certain oils. I know people that I've talked to sing the praises of coconut oil, for example, but is that a good one? Are there ones that are better? What would you recommend as far as oils go?
Well, with coconut oil, you know, it's been looked at for heart disease. Actually, there's quite a bit of interest in it in terms of Alzheimer's. There's some studies that are going on with that.
Okay.
But it's a highly saturated fat, which we know it's a solid fat. That's the kind that puts us at greater risk for heart disease. But it's also a plant. So there's some question as to, well, does it work a little differently in our bodies? Well, we don't really know yet. The jury just isn't out on that.
Okay.
Not enough evidence.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we talked about foods that might be good for us. Let's talk about some foods that are bad for brain health. Are there ones that can really be detrimental to our brain health?
Yeah. Again, a lot of the same foods that are bad for our heart are bad for our brains as well. If you think about it, heart disease comes from foods that may contribute to your arteries becoming more stiff and clogging up with plaque, reducing the blood flow. And the same thing will happen in our brains. If we reduce the blood flow to our brains, it's not getting the oxygen and the nutrients that it needs. So again, the saturated fat that we've talked about, your high-fat dairy, your high-fat meats, solid, Added sugar also, a lot of empty calories there, can contribute to weight gain, which is, not going to do us any favors in terms of risk for diseases. Sweetened beverages are by far the largest source of added sugar for Americans.
Okay.
And then also salt.
Okay. Is there any research going on right now that we should be aware of that might be emerging about what might be good for our brain health?
Yeah, some really interesting things going on. We've heard a lot about the Mediterranean diet, which can improve our risk for heart disease again, and improve our vessel diseases. And there's also the DASH diet, because high blood pressure can affect our blood vessels and our brain.
Okay.
The DASH is dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And so they're looking at a diet called MIND. And that stands for, don't ask me to say this twice, a Mediterranean DASH diet intervention for neurodegenerative delay.
Okay.
So the DASH diet is kind of like Mediterranean, but a little bit more on the fruits and vegetables and nuts and more dairy side of things. So they're kind of blending those. Blood pressure is another one of those things that can impact our brain health.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for all your time and your great information, Wendy. That does it for us today. I want to thank Wendy and all of our guests, and I want to say thank you for watching. We hope you'll take some steps to help your mind and your brain health so you can, as always, stay fit, stay well, and stay healthy for life with Healthy Living for Life. Have a great week.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the YouTube icon. Special thanks to Fire Tower Coffee House and Roasters. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.